Okay, right, there we go. So I'll record it and then I'll stop it early like last time so that we can like just chat at the end without that being recorded. But yeah, so just wanted to chat about like rings and repairs to start off with. So what you guys have got is a little chunk of ring tube, which will look a little bit like this, but a bit shorter. So we want to start off with getting a slice off of it. So I'd start with I'm just gonna file the edge flat a little bit because it had some saw marks in it. So this is where I will be using my calipers and my dividers to start off with to help make my guideline. So I'd sort of set my calipers to how thick a band I wanted it to be. But although we can, with wax, we can take away and we can add, it's so much easier to take away. So if you say you wanted specifically like a 5 mil wide band, quite wide, you would probably cut off at least 7 or 8 mil so that you had that extra little amount to file to size. Otherwise it could very easily be like 4 mil or 3 mil from filing that. So, but yeah. So if I've set my calipers to about 7, and then I'll use my dividers to get the right size. And then I'm just gonna scratch in myself a guideline all the way around the tube. You can see that I've scratched in a good guideline to help keep me on track. This is so that I don't cut it wonky, so I can keep it as straight as I can. So then I'd be getting my saw. How did everybody get on with the saw piercing? Is everyone was all right putting the saw blade in the saw frame? Give me a thumbs up if that was all right. Yeah, Laura. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, if remind me at the end, and I can show you how to put it back in. I can show you how to put it in the frame again if you want in a reminder. Just say. But yeah, so now I want to cut it off the block. I will cut the wax tube the same way I would be cutting a wire tube, which is to sort of keep rotating it to be cutting it through at all angles. So if I get myself started. And I'm just gently, sort of, like I say, just gently rotating the tube. This is like the best way to make sure that you're cutting it straight. Because if you cut it wonky off the main block, then the next ring that you go to cut is also wonky, and then you just have to spend ages filing it to get it flat again. That can be frustrating. So it's worth spending a bit of time trying to cut it straight. See, it doesn't need to be perfect. So let me see. I'm making little cuts in all of it. And again, with my saw piercing, it's just straight up and down movements, remembering that the saw's the one that's doing all the work, so I don't need to put a lot of pressure on because the blade's doing the cutting. So I keep going round and round, just like this until I get it, until I would get it cut off. So that's what I would be doing. And then in true Blue Peter style, here's one I did earlier. So this is a little slice off of it. So this is what we're aiming for to begin with. And then once we've cut it off, then the first thing that we want to do is size it, because we want to sort of work out the whole size that we want from the middle. And then once we've got that, then we can shape and carve and get whatever shape we want from it. You don't want to do it the other way round, because then you might take off too much material from that side, and then when you're trying to size it, then it actually just breaks apart, sort of thing. But anyway, so to size it, so this is our ring corer. That is the most useful tool for sizing. It looks a bit like a ring mandrel. So this is a ring mandrel, and this is a sizing one. So this guy has sizes down the middle. You can see them. But the corer has this blade down the side. So it's basically just a massive pencil sharpener. So you pop your little bit of wax in, and you just gently twisting it round, and the wax just gently comes away. In that article that I think it was Peter put in last week, there were some really great pictures, and you could see like the little bit shavings that come off. So it's the minusculely little sliver. You don't want to try and do it too fast, or like put too much pressure on, because then it just sort of gets lumpy on the inside and just sort of jumps. And so just gently, just twisting it around. And there, got your little pencil sharpening. The other thing to do is what you do to one side, do again to the other. So I've done it that way around, then I'm going to swap it and do it that way around. That's just to make sure that our ring is not tapered on the inside. We want the hole in to be nice and straight like this. But if you keep going on from just one angle, then it's just going to sort of be more like that. It's much more obvious when it's a wider band. If it's a thick one, then you can notice that a little bit more. But so I would be sizing it like this, and then I would be popping it on my ring sizer to keep checking my size. So I can see it's sitting about an M now. But yeah, so you would remember to keep checking the size. You can get sort of a bit carried away and just like, oh, twisty, and then it's too big, and you can't very easily make it a smaller size. You then have to cut it open, and just keep checking it. Anyway, so that's that one. So that's with our ring tube. This on the computer. But I also wanted to show you, if you had, so you can get wax in in a cylinder form. So you might have a cylinder like this, and you might be wanting to make this into a ring, or you might have your block wax, and actually the ring tube itself is too limiting, and you want it to be bigger or a different thing, and so you just need to cut a circle out of a different thing. So just as a sort of starting point for that, well, I've got my cylinder. I'd sort of find the central point of it. So I've got I made a little mark in the middle for myself. Then it's just a bit of maths really. So I say that, but I don't really enjoy maths. So if you look online, you can find all the different ring sizes, and they're like diameters. So for example, I wrote it down here. For example, a size M ring, the internal diameter is 16.5. So I would then work out, cut that in half and get my radius, which is be about 8.2. So I get my calipers. And get about 8.2. And then set my dividers to that. And then I'm just going to use this central punch and that, and draw myself my little circle guideline. So there's my little circle. So first of all, I want to drill my hole. So I've got my, as I pointed out last time, got my Dremel, which is, like I said before, is super handy. So many different tools that you can put in it. I'm just going to drill myself a hole super quickly. These on. When you're drilling, or when you're doing anything with the Dremel, really, just make sure that the piece that you're working on, you're holding it really securely. You've got a firm grip of it. You don't want it to fly anywhere. So then what I would do is need to put my thread my saw with the blade through it. So if I get the blade out and then thread it through it. So make sure when you're doing that, so the side that you drew on is on the top. This is useful for even if you're not even cutting out a specific ring size. If you just wanted to cut out a design from the middle, make sure the design's on the top so that you can still see it. It's frustrating if you spend time threading the blade and then you realize the design's on the bottom and then you have to take it all apart and do it again. So pop him in there. And tighten it up. That'll do. Okay. So then I would be ready to go with my saw in and going around. So yeah, so that's how I would size it or make a ring if I didn't have the ring tube in the first place. And then once I cut it out, I would be using the files that are like like a bit half rounded. So like one edge is flat, one edge is half rounded, to like just smooth all the inside, get rid of those saw piercing lines, to make it nice and smooth. Yeah, so that is how I would size and start off with the ring. And then obviously once I've sized it, shaped it, cut it, everything, then I can start to design it and file it, do whatever I want to do with it. Again, I would say, like, the dividers here is sort of my go-to. If it was needing to be specific, and so like I say 5 mil wide and 3 mil high, I don't know, I get those confused, but anyway, if it needed to be specific, I would use these and like set it to 3 mil, whatever it may be, and then draw around so that I've got myself my guideline that I know that I'm either filing to, or if it's quite a lot, then I would saw pierce or use a burr to get rid of loads of it. But yeah, just have a bit of fun with it, really. Like, you can do a lot with just the file, get loads of nice sort of shapes and sort of textures from it. But yeah, so that's the ring. Just check if I'm on track. Yeah, okay. So then hot tools. So like I say, when we're using the wax, it's so much easier to file away and take material away quite quickly. But that doesn't mean that we can't add it on as well. So just to sort of start off with, plug in the soldering iron, give it a little minute or two to heat up. So say, I mean, this is just super chunky. But anyway, say I needed to add some height to that, or I might have accidentally filed a bit too much away, or whatever it may be, and I just needed to add a little bit more. I would be using my scrap wax, so I'd always keep the big bits that I cut off, I tend to sort of keep in a little box so that they're handy if I'm needing this to use scrap wax for this sort of thing. Let's see how hot we are. A little bit longer. So yeah, this soldering iron, it's obviously the head of it is super. It's quite thick, in my opinion. So it's not as controlled as such. If we just want to sort of scoop it up and plop it on, this is sort of a good one to get started with. I don't know if we can see very well, but it's sort of starting to melt the wax here. So I can scoop it up and sort of plop it on. I don't know if you can see very well, but I'll show you in just a sec. Unplug that. This guy gets super hot. Copy there. So I've just sort of built a little blob on the top. And then what I would be doing then is going back in with the file to sort of start to refine it. I prefer, like I said before, to sort of use a spirit lamp and dental tools, or soldering iron. So let me light the spirit lamp. Can you see? Yeah, that's in the shot, isn't it? You can see it. Okay, so here, for example, is a ring, and then let's say what happens is it breaks, and you need to fix it. So let me break it. Okay, so it's now broken. There's a gap in it, and we want to join it back together. So we can see there's a bit of there's a gap as well. So I'm gonna, as well as melting it to push it back together, I'm gonna need to put a bit of extra material in it. So I would maybe use my dental tool to start with. Just get it to heat up a bit. I've sort of put I slice it in as it's hot, and then I'm squeezing it either side to, obviously when it's melted, it's still running and that, and you just want to sort of hold it in position for a few minutes for the wax to turn back to be hard again. So it's now that stuck it back together. Gosh, can you see? Oh, hard to get the right angle. Okay, so it's stuck back together, but there's a gap still. I'm going to use my solder probe. That's my favourite. Heat you up. So I saw a clip of like wax carving and that, and they were just using a candle. So I guess you can just use a candle to heat up your tools. It can get a bit sooty, but give it a go. Building up my little layer. When you're joining wax, or sort of building it up like this, what you can find is that you get little air bubbles within it as it's joined, and you ideally don't want the air bubbles, because that can be like a weaker part of it, and you don't want when you're casting it that bit to sort of break off or anything. So if you do see, like, it would look sort of like white in colour underneath. This is very pernickety. Like, you don't really need to know this as such, but I'll just say anyway. But yeah, you would see it underneath, and then you would just sort of like poke your tool in to sort of pop the air bubble, and then get the wax to remelt on the top. Anyway, so I've been building it up and got my little blob on the top, and then you just go back on with your file. So obviously, when you first fix it, it's going to be sort of lumpy. So then you go back to your file, reshape it, and get it nice and smooth or textured or whatever it was before it broke, so that it doesn't look like it was there in the first place. So we've all cleaned it up. So to add to that, we're fixing, we're sort of melting the wax and sort of joining it. You might find that you've carved two pieces, like we said before, that you might carve something in the green wax and something in the blue wax, and you're trying to sort of join them together. So it's just a delicate case of melting with control, really. So this is I'm going to talk more about this next week, but this little rod here is what I would call a sprue, and I would be, if I want to attach that to my model here, so it'd just be sort of gently heating my tool and then get them really close to each other. Sort of a part melted it and then pushed it on when it was in melted stage. Then just hold it in place, and then it will nicely join. So yeah, so that's sort of how you would be joining bits of wax together. There's also the wax pen, which I showed you guys last week. Again, like pressing the button heats it up, and just the same way that I've sort of been heating up the tool and gently scooping it, I would be doing the same with the wax pen, but it would get an even littler amount. We see it smoking a bit, not really on the video. Anyway, so I would sort of gently scoop it, and so it gently melts it. Yeah, I don't know if you can really see that. And then blob it on if it was a really delicate, tiny joint. Little blob. Yeah. Where's my cup? Yeah, so that's it really. That's what I wanted to show you guys today. Will I come back? Let me come back round to the computer, and then we can chat. Let me turn this video off. Stop video here. Okay. Oh.